Maria had always been a woman of quiet strength and unwavering determination. Her life wasn't glamorous, but it was filled with purpose. Every morning she woke up before the sun rose, preparing breakfast for her 2 young children and ensuring her elderly mother was comfortable before heading out to work. She worked as a cleaner at one of the most luxurious hotels in the city, a place where millionaires and celebrities often stayed. To them, Maria was invisible, just another staff member blending into the background. But to Maria, this job was everything. It was how she kept food on the table, paid the rent, and gave her family a chance at a better life. Her days were predictable yet exhausting. From dawn till dusk, she moved from room to room, scrubbing bathtubs, dusting shelves, changing sheets, and making sure every corner sparkled. The hotel's management prided itself on its 5-star reputation, and Maria took pride in knowing that she played a small part in maintaining that standard. Despite the long hours and physical strain, she never complained. She believed in doing her best, no matter how small or insignificant her role might seem to others. One evening, after finishing her shift in the lobby, Maria was assigned to clean an executive suite on the top floor. These suites were reserved for the wealthiest guests, people who traveled in private jets and wore suits worth more than her annual salary. As she pushed her cleaning cart down the hallway, she couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and intimidation. The opulence of the hotel sometimes made her feel out of place, like she didn't belong in such grand surroundings. But she reminded herself that everyone had a job to do, and hers was just as important as anyone else's. When she entered the suite, she noticed immediately how different it felt compared to other rooms. The space was massive, with floor-to-ceiling, windows offering breathtaking views of the city skyline. There was a plush king-sized bed, a marble bathroom with a jacuzzi tub, and a living area complete with leather couches and a grand piano. It looked less like a hotel room and more like a palace. Maria shook her head slightly, marveling at the extravagance, and got to work. She started by tidying up the living area, fluffing pillows, and straightening magazines on the coffee table. Then she moved to the bedroom, smoothing out the silk sheets and replacing the decorative throw pillows. As she bent down to pick up a crumpled tissue from the floor, the phone beside the bed suddenly rang. Startled, Maria froze for a moment, unsure of what to do. Normally, calls went directly to the front desk unless a guest specifically requested otherwise. Was this some kind of mistake? Curiosity got the better of her. After hesitating for a second, she picked up the receiver. In her limited Dutch, she said softly, "Hello?" On the other end, a deep, confident voice responded. It was Mr. van der Linden, a billionaire businessman who happened to be staying in the suite. He sounded surprised but amused when he realized he hadn't reached the front desk. Instead of hanging up, he decided to strike up a conversation. "Ah, hello," he said warmly. "I must have dialed my room by accident. Are you the housekeeping staff?" Maria nodded, though she knew he couldn't see her. "Yes, sir," she replied nervously, stumbling over her words. "I am cleaning your room." Mr. van der Linden chuckled lightly. "Well, I appreciate the hard work. Tell me, do you speak Dutch?" Maria hesitated again. She only knew a handful of phrases, enough to greet guests politely or ask if they needed anything. Still, she tried her best. "A little, sir. Not so good." To her surprise, Mr. van der Linden seemed delighted rather than annoyed. "That's impressive," he said encouragingly. "Not many people take the time to learn a new language, especially when it's not required for their job. You're doing great." For the next few minutes they talked. Or rather, Mr. van der Linden did most of the talking while Maria listened intently, nodding and responding whenever she could. He asked her about her work, her family, and how she liked working at the hotel. Though their conversation was brief, Maria felt a strange sense of connection. Here was a man who could afford anything he wanted, yet he took the time to speak to her, a lowly hotel cleaner, as though she mattered. When the call ended, Maria placed the receiver back on its cradle, her heart racing. She couldn't quite explain why, but something about the interaction left a lasting impression on her. Maybe it was the way Mr. van der Linden spoke to her, not as an employee, but as a person. Or maybe it was the fact that someone so powerful and wealthy had shown genuine interest in her life. Whatever it was, Maria found herself replaying the conversation in her mind long after she finished cleaning the suite. As she wheeled her cart back to the supply closet, she wondered if Mr. van der Linden would even remember their brief exchange. Little did she know that phone call would mark the beginning of a journey neither of them could have anticipated. For now, however, Maria returned home, kissed her children goodnight, and drifted off to sleep, unaware that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't imagine. The following morning, as sunlight streamed through the large windows of his executive suite, Mr. van der Linden sat at the desk in his room, sipping a cup of freshly brewed coffee. His mind kept drifting back to the previous evening, the unexpected phone call and the woman on the other end of the line. He couldn't quite put his finger on why, but something about Maria had struck him deeply. Maybe it was her humility when she admitted she didn't speak Dutch well, or perhaps it was the sincerity in her voice when she answered his questions. Whatever it was, he found himself intrigued. Mr. van der Linden wasn't the type of man who acted on whims. Known for his meticulous nature and calculated decisions, he rarely let emotions guide his actions. Yet this time felt different. Something about Maria's quiet dignity lingered in his thoughts. It wasn't just that she worked hard, after all many people did, but there was an authenticity to her that stood out. In a world full of pretense and polished facades, Maria seemed refreshingly real. Curiosity getting the better of him, Mr. van der Linden decided to learn more about her. After finishing his breakfast, he called down to the hotel manager's office and requested a meeting later that day. The manager, a middle-aged man named Mr. Patel, arrived promptly, carrying a clipboard and looking slightly nervous. Dealing with high-profile guests like Mr. van der Linden required tact and precision, and he wanted to ensure everything went smoothly. "Good morning, sir," Mr. Patel greeted warmly. "How can I assist you today?" Mr. van der Linden gestured for him to sit. "It's nothing urgent," he began casually, leaning back in his chair. "I just have a quick question. Last night, while I was in my suite, I accidentally dialed my room instead of the front desk. A member of your staff answered. A woman. She introduced herself as Maria, I believe." Mr. Patel nodded immediately, recognition flashing across his face. "Ah, yes, Maria. She's one of our housekeeping staff. Very dedicated, always punctual. Why do you ask?" Mr. van der Linden hesitated for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "She mentioned having a family to support. Do you happen to know more about her situation?" The question caught Mr. Patel off guard. While it wasn't unusual for wealthy guests to inquire about staff members, especially those who provided exceptional service, it was rare for someone to show such genuine interest. Still, he obliged, pulling out a file from his clipboard. "Maria has been with us for over 10 years, he explained. She's a single mother with 2 young children and takes care of her elderly mother as well. She works tirelessly, often picking up extra shifts to make ends meet. Honestly, sir, she's one of our most reliable employees." As Mr. Patel spoke, Mr. van der Linden listened intently, his expression thoughtful. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together now. Maria's polite demeanor, her willingness to engage despite her limited language skills, and her evident dedication to her job. All of it made sense. Here was a woman carrying immense responsibility on her shoulders, yet she carried herself with grace and resilience. After thanking Mr. Patel for the information, Mr. van der Linden dismissed him with a nod. Alone once again, he leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. He thought about his own life, the privileges he enjoyed, the opportunities he'd been given, and contrasted it with what little he knew of Maria's. It wasn't fair, he realized. People like Maria worked harder than anyone else, yet they often received the least recognition and reward. Determined to dig deeper, Mr. van der Linden decided to observe Maria discreetly. Over the next few days, he instructed a trusted assistant to shadow her without interfering in her routine. The assistant reported back faithfully, sharing details about Maria's daily life at the hotel. According to him, Maria was not only diligent but also kind-hearted. She greeted every guest with a smile, even if they ignored her. She helped colleagues whenever they needed assistance, whether it was carrying heavy trays or covering their shifts during emergencies. And despite the demanding nature of her work, she never complained or cut corners. One particular incident stood out to Mr. van der Linden. Apparently, a guest had left behind a valuable watch in their room after checking out. When Maria found it while cleaning, she immediately handed it over to the lost and found department instead of keeping it for herself. Such honesty impressed everyone involved, including the guest, who later wrote a glowing review praising the hotel's integrity. These stories painted a vivid picture of Maria, not just as a worker, but as a human being. She wasn't defined solely by her role as a cleaner. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, and a pillar of strength for those around her. Mr. van der Linden admired her character and wondered how someone with so much potential could remain stuck in a position that offered little room for growth. By the end of the week, Mr. van der Linden had made up his mind. He couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that Maria deserved more, a chance to rise above her circumstances and pursue something greater. But how could he approach her without seeming intrusive? He didn't want to come across as patronizing or condescending. Instead, he wanted to offer her an opportunity, one that would empower her rather than make her feel indebted. With this in mind, Mr. van der Linden devised a plan. He decided to invite Maria to dinner under the guise of expressing gratitude for her excellent service. During the meal, he would broach the subject delicately, gauging her reaction before making any concrete offers. If she showed interest, he would provide the resources and support she needed to build a brighter future. If not, he would respect her decision and leave things as they were. On the appointed day, Mr. van der Linden sent a message through the hotel manager, requesting Maria's presence in the lobby during her break. Nervous and confused, Maria arrived, unsure of what awaited her. What she didn't know was that this seemingly ordinary summons would set into motion a chain of events that would transform her life forever. As she descended the stairs, her heart raced with anticipation. Little did she realize that the billionaire, businessman she had spoken to briefly on the phone was about to change everything for both of them. The following morning, Maria arrived at the hotel feeling a mix of curiosity and unease. She replayed the previous night's phone call in her mind over and over again during her commute. Had Mr. van der Linden really taken the time to speak to her? Was he simply being polite, or was there something more to it? These questions lingered as she clocked in for her shift, grabbed her cleaning cart, and headed toward the executive suites. By mid-morning, her routine was interrupted when one of the hotel supervisors approached her. "Maria," he said, his tone formal but not unkind. "Mr. van der Linden has requested to see you in the lobby during your break. Please make sure you're presentable." Maria's stomach dropped. Her hands tightened around the mop she was holding, and for a moment she felt like the floor beneath her might give way. What could this mean? Had she done something wrong? Did Mr. van der Linden want to complain about her work? She racked her brain, trying to think of any detail she might have missed while cleaning his suite the night before. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't recall anything out of place. Still, dread filled her chest as she nodded and told the supervisor she would be ready. When her break finally came, Maria took extra care to tidy herself up. She smoothed out her uniform, tucked stray strands of hair behind her ears, and splashed some water on her face to calm her nerves. Walking down the corridor toward the lobby felt like stepping into unknown territory. The grand chandeliers above seemed brighter than usual, and the marble floors gleamed under the sunlight streaming through the windows. Every step echoed in the vast, quiet space, amplifying her anxiety. As she entered the lobby, she spotted him immediately. Mr. van der Linden stood near the reception desk, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit. His presence commanded attention, yet there was an air of warmth about him that put people at ease. When he saw Maria, he smiled, a genuine, kind smile, and gestured for her to join him. "Good morning, Maria," he greeted her warmly, extending his hand. "Thank you for meeting me." Maria hesitated for a second before shaking his hand. "Good morning, sir," she replied softly, her voice trembling slightly. Is everything okay? Mr. van der Linden chuckled lightly, as if sensing her nervousness. Everything is fine, I assure you. In fact, I wanted to thank you for your excellent work last night. Your attention to detail is remarkable. Maria blinked, unsure of what to say. No guest had ever complimented her so directly before. Most barely acknowledged her existence. Thank you, sir, she managed after a pause. I just try to do my best. And you do it very well, he said with a nod. Then without warning, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope. He handed it to Maria, who stared at it in confusion. What is this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. It's a token of appreciation, Mr. van der Linden explained. For your hard work and dedication. Please open it. With trembling hands, Maria opened the envelope. Inside was a check, an amount so large that she had to read it twice to believe it. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked back at Mr. van der Linden, speechless. You deserve it, he said simply. But that's not all. I'd like to invite you to dinner tonight, at my expense, of course. There's something important I'd like to discuss with you. Maria's heart raced. Dinner? With a billionaire? It sounded absurd, like something out of a movie. Sir, I don't know what to say, she stammered. Are you sure? I'm quite sure, he replied with a reassuring smile. Please consider it. I promise you won't regret it. After a long moment of hesitation, Maria nodded. Okay, sir. Thank you. That evening, Maria found herself standing outside, one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. She had never been inside such a place before, let alone dined there. Clutching her purse tightly, she stepped through the doors and was immediately greeted by a host who escorted her to a private table, where Mr. van der Linden was already seated. He rose to greet her, pulling out her chair with gentlemanly grace. Maria, you look lovely, he said, his tone sincere. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me, sir, she replied, still overwhelmed by the situation. The meal that followed was unlike anything Maria had ever experienced. The food was exquisite, delicate flavors artfully presented on pristine white plates, but it was the conversation that truly captivated her. Mr. van der Linden spoke about his own journey, sharing stories of how he had started with nothing and built his empire through hard work and perseverance. He listened intently as Maria talked about her life, her struggles, and her dreams for her children. Then, as dessert was served, he leaned forward and said, Maria, I want to help you. You have potential, more than you realize. I'd like to sponsor your education. With your determination and work ethic, I believe you can achieve great things. Maria froze, her fork hovering midway between the plate and her mouth. My education? She repeated, stunned. Yes, he said firmly. You've already proven that you're capable of excellence. Imagine what you could accomplish with the right opportunities. Let me help you unlock that potential. Tears filled Maria's eyes once again, but this time, they were tears of gratitude and hope. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream of a future beyond the confines of her current life, and as she sat there surrounded by luxury and possibility, she realized that Mr. van der Linden wasn't just offering her money or resources, he was offering her a chance to rewrite her story. By the end of the evening, Maria had agreed to take the leap. She didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but one thing was certain. Her life would never be the same again. The days following that unforgettable dinner were a whirlwind of emotions for Maria. On one hand, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and excitement. Mr. van der Linden had not only offered her financial support, but also believed in her, potential in a way no one ever had before. On the other hand, doubt crept into her mind like a shadow. Who was she to think she could step out of her comfort zone and pursue education? She was a single mother, a hotel cleaner, someone who had spent most of her life just trying to survive. How could she possibly succeed in a world that seemed so far removed from her reality? Every morning as she prepared for work, these thoughts swirled in her head. Her children noticed the change in her demeanor. Mama, Why do you look so worried? Her youngest son asked one day, tugging at her sleeve. Maria forced a smile and knelt down to his level. I'm not worried, sweetheart, she said, brushing his hair back. I'm thinking about something big, a chance to make our lives better. Her daughter, older and more perceptive, chimed in. Is it because of that rich man you met? Maria hesitated. Explaining the situation to her children wasn't easy. How could she convey the magnitude of what was happening without raising false hopes or scaring them? Finally, she settled on simplicity. Yes, he's helping me go to school so I can get a better job someday. But it will take a lot of hard work, and I'll need your help. Her kids nodded earnestly, promising to be good and take care of each other while she studied. Their innocence and trust gave Maria strength, but deep down, she knew the road ahead would be anything but smooth. True to his word, Mr. van der Linden wasted no time in setting things in motion. Within weeks, he arranged for Maria to enroll in a language program designed for adults. Since English and Dutch were essential for higher education, mastering them became her first priority. At first, attending classes felt surreal, surrounded by people from all walks of life. Some younger, some older. Maria often doubted whether she belonged there. During the initial sessions, she struggled to keep up with the lessons, her hands trembling as she wrote unfamiliar words and phrases. The fear of failure loomed large over her. But Mr. van der Linden remained a constant source of encouragement. He checked in regularly, asking how she was coping and offering advice when needed. Remember, Maria, he told her during one of their meetings, learning is like climbing a mountain. It's tough at first, but every step brings you closer to the top. Don't give up. His words stayed with her, fueling her determination. Slowly but surely, Maria began to improve. She practiced relentlessly, jotting down vocabulary on scraps of paper and reviewing them during her breaks at the hotel. She even started speaking to her co-workers in broken Dutch and English, much to their amusement. Each small victory, the correct pronunciation of a tricky word, the ability to form a coherent sentence, filled her with pride and renewed energy. Balancing work, studies, and family life was no easy feat. Maria's days became a blur of activity. She woke up earlier than ever to prepare meals for her children and ensure her mother was comfortable before heading to the hotel. After finishing her shift, she rushed to class, often skipping dinner to save time. By the time she returned home, late at night, exhaustion weighed heavily on her shoulders. Yet despite the fatigue, she made it a point to spend a few minutes with her children, listening to their stories and helping them with homework. There were moments when the pressure threatened to overwhelm her. One particularly grueling week, Maria found herself juggling multiple assignments, a demanding cleaning schedule at the hotel, and her son's fever. Exhausted and on the verge of tears, she called Mr. van der Linden, unsure of what else to do. Don't know if I can do this, she admitted, her voice cracking. It's too much. To her relief, he didn't dismiss her struggles. Instead, he listened patiently and then said, Maria, you're stronger than you think. You've already proven that by taking this step. But remember, it's okay to ask for help. That's why I'm here. With his guidance, Maria reached out to a local community center that provided free childcare services for working parents. They agreed to assist her on busy days, giving her some breathing room. Grateful for the support, Maria pushed forward, determined not to let anyone down. Not her children, not Mr. van der Linden, and certainly not herself. As months turned into years, Maria's progress was undeniable. She completed the language program with flying colors and moved on to business courses. Her instructors praised her diligence and creativity, qualities she had honed through years of problem-solving in her daily life. She learned to draft reports, analyze data, and present ideas confidently, skills that once seemed impossible to master. Throughout this journey, Mr. van der Linden remained a steadfast mentor. He attended her graduation ceremonies, celebrated her achievements, and reminded her of how far she had come whenever self-doubt crept in. More importantly, he taught her the value of resilience and perseverance. Success isn't about where you start, he often said. It's about where you're willing to go. By the time Maria earned her diploma, she was a different person. Gone was the timid cleaner who doubted her worth. In her place stood a confident, capable woman ready to take on the world. And though the path had been long and challenging, every sacrifice had been worth it. Looking back, Maria realized that Mr. van der Linden hadn't just given her money or opportunities. He had given her belief in herself, in her dreams, and in the idea that life could change for the better. With her newfound qualifications, she secured a position at a prestigious international company, rising steadily through the ranks. Her story became a testament to the power of kindness, opportunity, and unwavering determination. And yet, amid all her success, Maria never forgot where she came from. She visited the hotel often, sharing updates with her former colleagues and thanking them for their support. Most importantly, she kept in touch with Mr. van der Linden, whose generosity and faith in her had sparked a transformation that touched not only her life, but also the lives of those around her. Maria's graduation day was a moment she had dreamed of for years, though there were times when it felt like an impossible dream. The morning began with a flurry of activity as she prepared herself and her family for the ceremony. Her children were excited, dressed in their best clothes, while her elderly mother beamed with pride despite needing assistance to walk. Maria herself took extra care getting ready, choosing a simple yet elegant dress that made her feel confident and poised. As they arrived at the university auditorium, she couldn't help but marvel at how far she had come, from scrubbing hotel rooms to walking across a stage to receive a diploma. The room buzzed with excitement as graduates filed in, clad in caps and gowns. Maria found her seat among her classmates, clutching the program tightly in her hands. When her name was called, she stood up, heart pounding, and walked toward the stage. The applause from the audience felt surreal, but what truly brought tears to her eyes was seeing Mr. van der Linden rise to his feet, clapping enthusiastically. His presence meant more to her than any certificate or accolade. It was a reminder of the faith he had placed in her and the journey they had shared. After the ceremony, Maria's family gathered around her, hugging her tightly and taking countless photos. Her children looked up at her with admiration, their faces glowing with pride. "Mama, you did it," her daughter exclaimed, holding her hand tightly. Even her youngest son chimed in, saying, "Now you're a boss, right?" Maria laughed through her tears, pulling them close. "Yes, sweetheart," she said softly, "but no matter what happens next, I'll always be your mama first." Later that evening, Maria met Mr. van der Linden for dinner at a cozy restaurant. Over plates of hearty food, they reflected on everything that had transpired since that fateful phone call years ago. "I'm so proud of you, Maria," he said, raising his glass in a toast. "You've worked harder than anyone I know, and now you have the tools to achieve anything you set your mind to." Maria smiled, feeling a mix of gratitude and humility. "None of this would have been possible without you, sir," she replied earnestly. "You gave me a chance when no one else would. I can never repay you for that." Mr. van der Linden waved off her words. "Repayment isn't necessary," he said firmly. "What matters is what you do with this opportunity. Use it wisely, and let your success inspire others." With her degree in hand, Maria wasted no time diving into the professional world. She secured a junior position at an international logistics company, thanks to a recommendation from Mr. van der Linden. At first, stepping into an office environment felt daunting. Everyone around her seemed polished and confident, speaking a language of spreadsheets, presentations, and corporate jargon that she was still learning to navigate. But Maria approached every challenge with the same determination that had carried her through school. She stayed late to review documents, asked questions when she didn't understand something, and sought feedback to improve her performance. Her colleagues quickly came to admire her work ethic and positive attitude. Though she was often the first to arrive and the last to leave, Maria never complained. Instead, she focused on building relationships, earning trust, and proving herself capable. Within months, she earned a promotion to a team leader role, overseeing operations for a key account. It was a responsibility she hadn't imagined holding just a few years earlier, but she embraced it wholeheartedly. As her career advanced, Maria made it a point to stay connected to her roots. She visited the hotel regularly, chatting with former co-workers and sharing stories of her new life. Many of them marveled at her transformation, calling her an inspiration. "If Maria can do it, why can't we?" one of her former colleagues remarked during one such visit. Those words stuck with Maria, sparking an idea. Determined to give back, Maria launched a mentorship program aimed at supporting low-income workers who aspired to pursue education or career advancement. With Mr. van der Linden's guidance, she partnered with local businesses and community organizations to provide resources like scholarships, flexible schedules, and tutoring services. The program grew rapidly, helping dozens of individuals break free from cycles of poverty and build brighter futures for themselves and their families. One of the participants, a young woman named Rosa, reminded Maria of her younger self. Rosa worked long hours as a waitress while caring for her siblings, struggling to find time to study. Through Maria's program, she received financial aid and mentorship, eventually graduating with honors and landing a stable job in healthcare. When Rosa thanked Maria for changing her life, Maria simply smiled and said, "Someone once believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Now it's my turn to pay that forward." Years passed, and Maria continued to climb the corporate ladder, eventually becoming a senior executive at her company. Her leadership style was marked by empathy, inclusivity, and a deep commitment to empowering others. Under her guidance, the company implemented policies to support working parents, invest in employee development, and foster diversity. Her efforts earned recognition not only within the organization, but also in the broader business community. Despite her achievements, Maria remained grounded. She often visited schools and community centers, sharing her story with students and encouraging them to dream big. "Life may throw obstacles your way," she would tell them, "but remember, every step you take brings you closer to where you want to be. Don't be afraid to ask for help and don't underestimate the power of hard work." Through it all, Maria maintained a close relationship with Mr. van der Linden. Their bond had evolved from mentor-mentee to a genuine friendship, built on mutual respect and admiration. They met regularly, discussing everything from business strategies to personal milestones. On one such occasion, as they sat together overlooking the city skyline, Maria turned to him and said, "Do you ever wonder what might have happened if I hadn't answered that phone call?" Mr. van der Linden chuckled. "I think about it sometimes," he admitted. "But I like to believe that good things happen when people are open to possibilities. That call wasn't just luck. It was destiny." Maria nodded thoughtfully, gazing out at the glittering lights below. In that moment, she realized how much her life had changed, not just for herself, but for everyone she had touched along the way. From a humble cleaner to a respected leader, her journey was proof that even the smallest actions could lead to extraordinary outcomes. And as she looked back on the winding path she had traveled, Maria knew one thing for certain: no matter where life took her next, she would always carry the lessons of resilience, kindness, and hope that had guided her thus far.